Welcome everyone to the Town of Greater Napanee regular session of council for the 14th day of November 2024. Just before we get started, I just want to remind everyone that this evening's meeting will be televised on our Town of Greater Napanee YouTube channel, and it'll be recorded there as well. So the folks that don't have the ability to watch it tonight will be able to watch it anytime in the future. So having said that, we'll look for a motion we'll call the meeting to order, and we'll start off with our closed session meeting that we had earlier this evening. Look for a motion to rise and report from closed session. Moved by Councillor Hicks, seconded by Councillor Shank. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. I'd like to report that in closed session this evening, council approved the closed session minutes of April 30th, 2024, and received information regarding 2 matters related to negotiations and gave direction to staff. Having said that, we'll look for a motion to adopt the agenda as presented. Moved by Councillor Pennell, seconded by Councillor Martin. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof? Seeing none. Deputations, scheduled deputations with respect to new items, and I believe we do have a deputation this evening from Mr. Robert Boomhauer. So come on up, Robert, and we'll get you to sit at the front chair there, and I'll give you the sort of the Reader's Digest version of how this is going to work. Is that there's a button on the side. Well, we got to get you to talk into the microphone. That's the only thing. And I don't think the microphone will go back that far. So you'll see that the microphone's in front of you. On the right-hand side, it says a talk. You have to push that button and hold it. And when you're done talking, just let it go. So as long as you push the button and talk into the microphone, we should be good. And because if you don't, then the people at home are going to phone me and yell at me. So whenever you're ready, Robert, the floor will be yours. So.
My name is Robert Boomhauer. I live at 909 South Shore Road. I'm here about the removal of the load restriction sign on the South Shore Road. That's been there since 1992. The sign was removed this winter by our works department after talking to the I assume somebody else. I don't know who's talking to. Let me go here. Can't even read my own writing.
That's all right. Take your time. We've got a few minutes here, so.
We have approximately 30 trucks a day coming on our road. When this sign gone, it is now 60. And if you don't think that's a lot of traffic, come on out to my place and stay for half an hour, and you'll see how much traffic that is. And that's all part of removing that sign. When you remove the sign, you allow trucks to travel both ways on that road. That road was resurfaced in about 14 and 15 years ago. It was never designed for trucks. We got 2 inches of concrete. It's the only road in this whole damn town that's got only 2 inches of concrete. The road is finished. It has major cracks, major holes, and major stress fractures that is going to break open completely within 5 years. I had a study put on the road by myself, paid for by myself, and will stay in my possession. I know exactly how that road's going to happen in 5 years. You don't, but I do. But you should know. And you will in 5 years. I've been complaining about this traffic on our road for the last 20 years. I've been to town council once before over it. I can't remember the year. Numerous times I spoke to Mike, and numerous times. Most of the time, nobody's ever got back to me. They just completely ignored me and what I'm concerned. Now they're going to have to listen to me because here I am. We have approximately, on the 9-kilometer section of road, we have approximately 101 houses. County Road 29 has 25 houses with 4 inches of asphalt, which can handle traffic both ways easily. There's only one house that sits on the side of the road. We had 2 almost bad incidents last summer with children running across the road and the trucks just not stopping. They're doing 80 kilometers and 60, and it takes them half a kilometer to slow down. But that's not what I'm here for. We want the sign back. We know that it can't be. We don't have the, or from what I know of, we don't have the facilities to weigh trucks, and we don't have the people to weigh trucks. I know that, but the sign is a deterrent. That's all it is, and it worked, but now it doesn't. It's that simple. So all I'm asking for the sign to come back. I've been after this for quite a while, and I just keep getting the runaround. I spoke to my counselor, Mike Schenk. He returned my phone calls. I explained my situation. Never heard from him again. I have no use for you, Mr. Schenk. and you
Well,
won't
that-
get- and you won't
Robert,
get- you won't get the vote.
Robert, I'm going to stop you there, okay? We're going to be respectful here this evening, okay? And even though you may have a difference of opinion with how we do business, I'm going to stop you there. So we're going to be respectful. You're here for a purpose,
Okay.
and we have to be respectful
okay, I
towards
understand.
council and towards staff.
I know I'm at a place.
Great, okay, as long as we know that, that's good.
I do apologize. I'll speak to you later. But I reached out to another counselor, and he did an investigation, and he ran into a brick wall. Same with brick wall I did. I truthfully think that you have people in your works department that are just off on their own without answering to anybody. And they certainly don't answer to us. They did that at no time did they come out to our road and speak to anybody on our road about moving our sign. That's us. We live there. And at least the decency could have been, come talk to us. And then you probably wouldn't have removed it anyway, so. I'm pretty sure that I won't accomplish anything here tonight. I'm pretty sure of that. And I know how politics work. I've been involved in a lot of stuff for the last few years. So I know how it works. I'm here is just to tell you how we feel. And I spoke to over 50 people on our road, and we all feel the same. And we all say, how come nobody's come to talk to us? Nobody did. Okay, last page. Okay, all I'm asking for, I'm finished. My time's up. All I'm asking for is a sign to be replaced. And I don't care if you ever monitor it. Just as I said before, it's a deterrent. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Just hang tight there, Robert. Okay, we're going to see if council has any questions for you with respect to your deputation. I don't think sorry, no, well, what we'll do, I think, if there's no questions of Robert with respect to his conversation, I'll explain. No, just hang tight, Robert. I'm sensing there's some frustration here, and I'm sensing that from what you told us is that the crux of the matter is related to a sign that was there and is not there now. Am I correct? Just so I got my notes complete here.
There's no sign there at all. The sign just was taken down and the sign was replaced for the side for one side, but like all the other doors. And then a week later, that sign was taken down.
Okay, and
No, there's
I've sensed that there has been some conversations between you and some members of council and some staff. Am I correct with that?
Yes.
Okay. So normally what we do with respect to deputations similar as this, and not just your deputation, but any deputations, is that we have the ability to ask our staff to provide us with a report. None of us up at this table here are road experts. None of us are sign experts. And we've listened to the information you provided to us. So what I think is probably the appropriate thing to do is that we will ask staff to bring back a report with respect to the information that you've provided to us tonight. So it provides us with the opportunity to try and make a decision with respect to what's going on out there. Okay. And I think that's the fair thing to do. And I think that, and I know that staff is taking some notes so that they know the direction that we're looking for. So, that's what I will be asking is that a report be brought back to council in order to discuss this at a future date. And that way it provides us with the opportunity to make an informed decision with respect to what's going on at the South Shore Road. Okay.
I would like to suggest that you have somebody come out and inspect that road and you'll realize the damages that road, that the trucks are doing that road.
I'm sure that when staff does their report and provides the information, they're very good at providing with a thorough report and with all the information that's going to be pertinent to what we need to make a decision if in fact there's something that we need to make a decision on. So I'm confident staff will do that, but that's what we're going to do. We're going to ask them to bring back a staff report with respect to the information that you've provided to us tonight.
And would you please make sure I receive a copy of that report?
Oh, I'm sure that we have the abilities to make sure you do. And if not, then you're more than welcome to come on the date.
A computer at home, so.
Yeah, you'll be able to either watch it on our YouTube channel because it'll be a public conversation and the report will be published in our agenda at a future date once that information has been obtained. So if there is anything else, did anything come of what I had to say to Mr. Boomhauer? Seeing none, go ahead, Councillor Shank. Just 1 second. Councillor Shank may have a question.
Very well aware of the concerns that Robert Boomhauer and some other residents that have there, but what had gone from the Gore Road, they were supposed to coming out of the one pit, but you'll get this all in the report when we get it from. And some of the trucks, when they are loaded, if they are going somewhere on South Shore, sometimes they go that way. And so Mr. Boomhauer is saying that I don't want to have those dump trucks going down my road.
And I think all that information will probably get fleshed out in a staff report, I'm thinking. So we will task staff to come back with a report with respect to what the heck is going out there and what their suggestion and what they feel is an appropriate resolution.
Can I ask you to please speak to the people on the road?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into directing staff on how they're going to do this, but they do a very thorough and they do a very technical report on what's going on out there and the road conditions and all that kind of stuff. So they'll bring back all that information for sure. So if there's nothing else, I think we can let you go there, Robert, and we'll look for a motion. Madam Clerk, we're just going to motion to note and receive, and I think staff has probably have the ability to take the instruction that we're going to ask for a staff report. Do you want that in the motion or no?
Through your worship, I've got that in the draft motion here that it is specifically direction from council to bring back a report regarding the subject of Mr. Boomhauer's deputation.
Great, and as well as note and receive then the deputation. So we do have a motion. Would somebody like to move that motion? Moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, seconded by Councillor Norrie. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you, Robert, and we look forward to seeing a report in the future. Moving on to deputation items on the agenda, and I don't believe we have anything, do we, Madam Clerk? And correspondence items on the agenda. I know we've received some correspondence. Is there anything that anybody would like to speak to with respect to that? Seeing none. Unfinished business. Do we have any unfinished business? No. the administrative consent agenda. And again, it's a bit of a lengthy document, so we'll go through it one piece by piece. So first up, we have the council minutes for the regular session of council on April 30th, 2024. Is there anything in those council minutes that anybody would like to have a discussion with or would like to bring to anybody's attention? Councillor Hicks.
Just a follow-up to the Little Forest.
I think that's further on down the agenda.
Okay.
Oh, it's in those minutes. Sorry.
Yeah, it's in the minutes. I don't know if this is the right place or would this be an inquiry? Jessica, I can hold off on my question. I'm just wondering, have we heard back from them? Did they get approved? Have the letters gone out? Has there been any discussion with residents?
I think that would probably fall under further down in the agenda with respect to in council inquiries.
Sure, okay.
Yeah, and then
Now
that way.
Can ask it. Okay.
Thanks, Councillor Hicks. If there's nothing else, we have the committee minutes, Downtown Advisory Committee, Arts Advisory Committee, and the Recreation Advisory Committee. So we'll start with the Downtown Advisory Committee. I think that was your minutes, Councillor Hicks. Is there anything there that you'd like to bring note to? Thank you. The Arts Advisory Committee, Councillor Norrie, is there anything in there you'd like to highlight?
Just for the record, one error, I was absent due to illness, so move me from one column down.
Okay, we'll make note of that then. Thank you. The Recreation Advisory Committee, and that would be Deputy Mayor Calvers. Is there anything in there you'd like to highlight?
Nothing really other than what the report says. We've got another meeting coming up. We did make a decision on what we'd like to see for a playground replacement, and we're just waiting to check and finalize that. And we've made a decision on boat launch signage as well, so that'll be coming forward at another meeting.
Great. Thanks, Deputy Mayor Calver. If there's nothing further, we'll move on to correspondence for information items. And I apologize, Madam Clerk, that I might have jumped ahead on this, but is there anything in the correspondence for information anybody would like to pull out and have a conversation about? Seeing none. Proclamation, Stroke and Aphasia Awareness Month. Would anybody like to speak to the proclamation with respect to a Stroke and Aphasia Awareness Month? Seeing none, the 2024 outdoor patio license, Santorini Mediterranean Grill at 54 County Road 8. Would anybody else like to make any comment or speak to that application of Santorini's? Seeing none. IESO procurement update. We've had an opportunity and we do have a report in there with respect to the IESO procurement update. Is there anyone that would like to have any conversations or speak to that? Seeing none. So bear with me. We'll look for a motion to that council consent to the approval of the following routine items, that the minutes of the regular session of council dated April 30th, 2024 be adopted as presented, that the draft Downtown Advisory, Arts Advisory, and Recreation Advisory Committee minutes of March 19th, April 24th, 2024 be received for information, that the correspondence for information items dated May 14th, 2024 be received, that council receive for information and endorse the proclamation for Stroke and Aphasia Awareness Month, and that council receive for information the 2024 outdoor patio license, Santorini Mediterranean Grill at 54 County Road 8 report, and further that council approve an outdoor patio license for Santorini Mediterranean Grill from May 15th to September 30th, 2024 at the 54 County Road 8, Napanee, subject to the following conditions, that the owner shall install a maximum of 12 tables and 72 chairs on the patio and ensure that the patio meets all other conditions of bylaw number 04-38 and all public health and provincial requirements. And that council receive for information the IESO procurement update report. Moved by Councillor Norrie, seconded by Councillor Martin. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Items for consideration, 8.1 on our agenda, which is Infrastructure Services 2023 Annual Monitoring Reports for South Fredericksburg and the Rodland Waste Disposal. And Andrew, when you get settled, you're up and you've got the floor.
Not much to add, Your Worship, to the report, other than take this opportunity to thank our landfill attendants. The town employs 6 attendants who give up their Saturdays year-round to service the sites in our community. And starting in July, Wednesday evenings at South Fred. Highlights of the report, we're on target for filling South Fred. We're at 38 years left. I think we can extend that if we take care of that site and ensure that we're separating the waste accordingly. And I'm here for questions.
Great, thanks, Andrew. Does anybody have any questions or comments with respect to Andrew's report or presentation? Go ahead, Councillor Hicks.
Through you, your worship. Hi, Andrew. Good report. Quick question. I remember Christy at one point mentioned that if not just the diversion, but the packing, like packing everything down, there was some discussion about what was being used to do that and how it wasn't necessarily the best equipment for the job. Have we looked into anything further on that, on upgrading equipment? Or I know it wasn't part of the budget, but I'm just asking because I think it was a significant extension on the lifespan, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, through your worship, to Councillor Hicks, I've just sent an email to a neighboring township to see if we could borrow their compactor when it's not in use. The piece of equipment we have is doing the job, but not as well as it could. Those pieces of equipment are very expensive. And so, yes, it's in staff's future plans to try to find a permanent solution to that that's cost effective for the town.
Yep, go ahead, Councillor Shank.
So Andrew, right to the west of the dump there is a property for sale. Now they're in the same geographical area, and I'm just thinking for future usage. All right, would it not be possible to maybe entertain or look at if you bought just the wooded portion where directly opposite from that, you know, and get a severance from see if the landowner would even want to do that, that possibly the municipality should buy that for any future, you know, so the next generation has a place, you know. I know we're still burying garbage and I know, but we don't have the budget to go ahead and incinerate or anything else like that unless it comes from the province. But I'm just thinking the foresight of doing some of that, or if not, I believe that's a lot of that area is in limestone. So as the quarries get purchased and as we need the aggregate to build our roads, like I mentioned last year, we should have our own quarry, all right, at least have our own aggregate for our roads department, because eventually, you know, we have to be self-sufficient. It's a whole lot cheaper in ways of saving money. So if we have our own aggregate for fixing our own roads, and there's a possibility with the limestone being very close there, all right, is it something that we should look into also, just for future?
Yeah, through your worship, that's something I'll bring up to senior leadership to see if that's something we can do. It wouldn't be uncommon in the province for municipalities to increase buffer zones and attenuate some lands around their landfill sites, but it's something we can take forward. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Councillor Shank. Is there any other questions or comments for Andrew? Go ahead, Deputy McCower.
Andrew, I realize the little dozer we're using for packing isn't sufficient. Have we ever looked at maybe renting a larger one to come in maybe once every other month or every 3 months to put a little more weight down there to drive around? Has that ever been looked at as an option?
So we have done that in the past with a neighboring municipality. There's actually equipment that's designed, as you're probably aware, for that. They're landfill compactors. So I actually, while I was sitting here, just sent an email out to see if we could strike that arrangement up again. But yeah, that's something we need to consider for down there for the future.
Okay, yeah, because I think that's a D4 if I'm not mistaken, and there is D10 kicking around. So, all right, that's great if we can get the proper compactor for sure. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Deputy Mayor. Is there any other comments or questions? Seeing none, we do have a recommendation that council receive for information the Infrastructure Services 2023 Annual Monitoring Reports for the South Fredericksburg and the Robin Waste Disposal Sites Report. Moved by Councillor Pennell, seconded by Councillor Martin. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Next up is the gain on sale of 53 Community Road. And I see Miss Hamel coming up, so Ellen, when you get it settled in, we'll turn the floor over to you. Do you want, you're trying to get a staff report? You're more than welcome to have my iPad if you want. So I'd like to help you out with the technical part of it, but I'm not the right person to be doing that. I don't think so.
Thank you, Your Worship. Oh, so before you guys have a staff report speaking to the sale of 53 Community Road. So as a result of that sale, staff is looking for direction on the gain on the sale that we will be recognizing on our books for that. There was an indication from council previously that they would like to see any proceeds from sale of land going towards the purchase of 99 Advance. So that is the staff recommendation you see before you. We're just looking for direction to be able to transfer those to the land reserve. And then ultimately, we would do a transfer out of that reserve to write down the unfinanced capital on 99 Advance.
Great. Thanks, Ellen. Does anybody have any questions? Go ahead, Councilor Brunel.
Thank you, Worship, through you. Alan, thank you very much for this report. I'm just wondering, did we not have a motion from council stating where we wanted the funds of excess or surplus buildings going to, that it would automatically be directed to funding 99 Advance?
Thank you, through your worship. Yes, we do. Was more of a staff report to let you know what those numbers came in at, and just kind of wrapping up the loose ends on that. But yes, there is a resolution for that.
Okay, thanks. I'm glad that you filled me in on that about letting us know how much there was and stuff, because I was just hoping that there was no chance to be steered off of what the direction was of getting that funded. Thank you.
Thanks, Councilor Brunel. Councilor Nori.
Excuse my ignorance. I'm just a homeowner, but where did the 72,000 go between the 162.32? Does that stay within the town as well? Or I don't know, I bought and sold houses. I've never seen that. I'm just curious as a non-business person.
Absolutely. So through you, so the way that we have to record this is we've got the sale amount, which we do actually get in cash, but then we also have the asset on the book. So we have to do an entry to remove the asset, and then essentially you're taking the cash to bring the value of your asset back up, which you're now removing. It's definitely an accounting entry that has to be done. So there's about 56,000 that we have to do to remove the asset that we've now sold. Then there's some commission and legal fees in there. We had a small EA, some consulting fees that were done. So the biggest difference here being the removal of the asset on the books. So we still have it in cash, which is one side of the asset, and then we actually have to remove the asset from our books. So there's a transfer. So it's just the remaining portion that's left.
Thank you. Clear as mud.
Yeah, no, yeah, go ahead, Councilor Shank. It's just an accounting thing is what it is. Yeah,
The
so.
$53,000 that was, you base the asset on. So I can understand the accounting program that you did. So did that $53,000 go into in the general account because it was an asset? Or where did you do with the 53? Where did you put it?
So currently we have the asset of $56,000 on the book. So we have to remove that asset and transfer the cash to bring the asset back up. The asset account.
No. So it went to the asset account. There you go.
Yeah, maybe after 4 years we'll have this figured out, but I'm not sure I'll ever figure it out. So anyways, thanks, gentlemen. Is there any other questions or comments? Go ahead, Councilor Shank.
The other properties that we have sold, the next time, could you give us just an update of how much is in that asset account? And is that asset account used for any capital expenditures, or how do you tie that into your budget?
So currently, it's not tied into our budget specifically. It's what our TCA schedules are, so our tangible capital assets, and we have to report on that. It's built into our financial statements. You'll see that in our statement of financial position, but it's not directly tied to our budget. At this time, we're not budgeting for amortization, so it's not tied there.
That would I be correct in saying that it's like an asset reserve? Because since you're not tying it into any of your budget or any of your general ledgers, so it's into your asset account, all right? So would that not be almost like an asset reserve? Or maybe I'll take some time, next time I'm happen to be in town, I will go to 99 Events, and Alan will give me an accounting 101 about asset accounting.
I'm happy to chat about that.
And then you can teach the rest of us, Mike. Is there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we do have a recommendation that council receive for the information financial services report gain on the sale of 53 Community Road, and further that council direct staff to transfer $160,099.07 in gains on the sale of the 53 Community Road to the other lands reserve. Moved by Councillor Norrie, seconded by Councillor Martin. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. And I think the next one is yours as well, Alan. Gain on the sale of 115, 117 John Street.
Thank you, Your Worship. So a similar situation for 115, 117 John Street. In this instance, we do have some more costs that are associated with this property. So there's been some additional write-downs that have had to happen. That primarily has to do with an unsuccessful tax sale that happened on that property within a 7-year time frame. So we're required to pay back the taxes that were wrote off for the school board and the county. So there was about $35,000 coming off the sale that we need to include. Same story with the write-down of the asset, legal fees, commission fees, etc. We do, on this situation, have conflicting direction from council. So there was previous direction back in, I believe it was 2018, maybe. Sorry, I don't have the exact dates here. When the write-downs happened on this property, stating both in our financial statements and on a resolution from council at the time, stating that any proceeds from this property would be directed back into the assessment appeal reserve, which was the reserve that was used at the time to capture or to fund those write-downs that happened. Skipping forward to this council, we had made a secondary direction to council to put proceeds of sales to the properties in the Market Square vicinity back into Town Hall. So at this point in time, staff are just looking to direction on which way the proceeds of this sale are to go. Either is an appropriate manner.
Thanks, Ellen. And that's the 18,000 and change, I think, is what's in the report. So go ahead, Councillor Hicks, and we'll go to Councillor Pennell. Sorry, go ahead, Councillor Pennell, and then we'll go to Councillor Hicks.
Thank you. Your Worship, through you, there's going to be some very exciting times coming to this building here in the very near future. And although I did make a comment on the previous item on the agenda of previous motions and such, but I'm just wondering that there's a movement on this building and there's going to be great momentum. I'm just wondering if we could put this towards the old town hall here so that we can continue on with the beautification of the building and the surrounding grounds. Although the building is going to be painted, there is still work that needs to be done to landscaping and such like that, that we don't exactly know of a design or cost at this time, but every little bit of money would help. And it wouldn't be me if I didn't say I'd rather see this go towards the aquatics fund, but I know that that's not going to happen. So I'm gonna ask for it to be here for town hall. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Pennell. Councillor Hicks, did you have, go ahead, the floor is yours.
Through you, Your Worship. Yeah, so Dave and I, Councillor Pennell and I are in agreement on where we would like to see the money go, which is towards the renovation and upgrading of town hall. My question is actually to the clerk. Do we have to rescind the resolution from 2018? How do we deal with that? Or does it just fade away?
So through your worship, that motion was made by a previous council and nothing within it is, no legally binding actions or commitments have been taken as a result of that motion. So new terms of council are allowed to provide different direction, as your treasurer has indicated. Either option, it would be a valid choice for council to make here. So there's no need to rescind that motion. The new direction would simply override that previous direction from 2018.
Yep, go ahead, Ange.
Okay, so that answers that question. But when I look at the financial implications that Ellen has provided, are you perhaps recommending that some or all of this money be put back into the assessment appeals reserve? Because when I read this, you're saying that it's been drawn down quite a bit, so we don't have any buffer there at all. Are we able to do half and half? Can we, I'm just wondering if there's an appetite to protect ourselves against appeals in the future, as well as put some money back into town hall.
Did you want to take a stab at that, Tom?
I don't believe there's anything preventing council from splitting up how they would like to see that directed. You're correct in that that reserve has been significantly depleted. With that being said, we're not seeing a lot of assessments at this point in time, given that we haven't had any movement in that area in quite some time. The one thing that had in the back of my mind, that is if that particular property gets redeveloped and they challenge their assessment, there may be, because it will be a new assessment coming on board. I mean, I always like to see money into reserves as a treasurer, but I also understand council's desire to have funds available to this property. So it really is just at the desire of council at this point in time.
Thanks, Councillor Hicks. Councillor Shank.
I move option 2.
Option 2, just, yeah,
Mike.
okay, I'll give you some wording there if you wish, that council receive for information financial services gain on the sale of 115-117 John Street report, and further that council provide direction to staff as to what reserve fund the gain on the sale of 115-117 John Street is to be transferred. And I suspect that you are going to suggest that that goes to a reserve fund for the town hall remediation renovation fund or reserve
Of $18,247.20.
of 18,000 to change. Yes. Madam Clerk, do you have what you need for a motion?
Through your worship, yes, I do.
Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Pennell. Is there any other conversations and discussions anybody wants to have with respect to this $18,000? Councillor Shank.
Ellen, I just want to get this from my head. The assessment appeal reserve fund, all right, we had a targeted level, but it was currently down to what the number is now, all right? But isn't that a large portion of the hydro appeal that was done from years ago? That's where the major decrease was. It wasn't the average person, because when you set your budget, you generally go automatically for assessment appeal of 1 or 2% anyway.
You're correct. The substantial balance of that reserve was specific to that incidence, and there was ongoing contributions to that reserve at that point in time for that. It is still lower than the target that is ideal, but that's correct.
That's the reason why I understand what all the other, what Ellen had put into our document here. So when you're dealing with only, I shouldn't say only, but 18,000, considering the amount of money that is going to needed to keep the historical building here, palatable. So that's why I'm saying, hey, let's throw that money towards it.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Councillor Shank. I don't think there'll be too many people disagreeing with you there. So is there any other comments or questions with respect to the motion that we have on the floor? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Alan.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would just like to add one further clarification to that. So the gain on the sale does not take into consideration all of the write-offs that were applied to that account, because we wrote off municipal taxes and any fees that would have been added to the tax roll at that time, which would have depleted that reserve specific for that amount. So this gain on sale is not, does not cover all of the costs that were already incurred by the municipalities that was funded through that reserve.
That's another meeting.
Yeah, I think you might be right, Mike. So, go ahead, Councillor Pennell.
Thank you, Worship, through you. Ellen, in the staff report, in the background part, we say that the assessment appeal account was around 1 million and it's currently sitting at 200,000. But when I scroll down, there's implications that says that the council approved target of, or sort of appeal reserve fund, council approved target of 500,000 is currently sitting at 329,861.
Yes, Councillor Pennell. So there was, I apologize that there was a discrepancy there in the report. So there was additional commitments out of that for Tomlinson's appeal that were not keyed yet. So we just included that in the earlier part of the report. So the lower number is the more accurate number.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Is there any other questions or comments? I think we do have a motion on the floor, if I'm not mistaken, Madam Clerk. If there isn't, seeing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor of the motion that's on the floor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Thanks, Alan. Next up, we have the proposed new advisory committee update. And I think, Madam Clerk, is that yours?
So through your worship, this report is really just here as an interim update to let council know that we are still thinking about this and we are aware that this is something that is important to members of council and where we are at to date in discussions. If there's any further questions from council, staff will do our best to either answer them tonight or get you more information.
Thanks, Jessica. Does anybody have any questions with respect? Go ahead, Ange.
Through you, your worship. There we go. Through you, your worship. Brant, I think at one point there was some discussion about staff providing a summary or a synopsis of what the different agencies do and where there was potential overlap. So for instance, the county's economic development team, the Bay of Quinte Marketing Board, our own economic development team, perhaps even the Chamber of Commerce, because in talking to their president, I think that's the right president, there was actually talk of maybe a tourist information booth. Anyway, is this something that you're currently working on? Because I think that this is something that is very, very important to have so that we're not duplicating effort, stepping on toes, trying to reinvent the wheel. And also, will there be a request for some community engagement? I'm just asking the question, like what the forum for that would be, if it would be Survey Monkey, bang the table, what have you, just a general Facebook, hey, what do you guys think? What, if you could answer one or some of those questions would be great.
Through your worship, yes. Part of this report is that we've made contact with the county and economic development and asked their lead staff person to make a presentation to this council on what their function is and where they fit into the puzzle. And we could certainly extend that same invitation to the Chamber of Commerce to come and make a presentation. And we could do it again with the Bay Quinte Marketing Board. They've spoke to us a couple times already. However, it doesn't hurt in the context of what we're trying to achieve here to have them come back again. And as far as public consultation, we can do it more formal. That's ongoing because we are hearing from the public on what they'd like to see, but we could go back out again once we've heard from agencies that are actually involved in this work.
May I?
Go ahead,
Through your
Ange.
worship. Okay, thank you, Brant. That's what I was hoping you would tell me. The other thing that I really feel needs to be addressed, and it's long overdue, and that is the CIP. And that framework and the context of that actual document for the town and how everybody else plays into that.
Through your worship, the CIP has a budget component to it, and it would be, once the committees have a chance to review it, one already has made a recommendation, is if there's any budget implications for 2025, it should come forward at budget time.
Okay, so we're talking the community improvement plan for a geographical area, and you're saying a committee has already made a recommendation?
That's correct. The Heritage Committee had already made a recommendation a few months ago on supporting the CIP. And it's gone to the Market Square Committee, but no recommendation has been made, and they actually want a further presentation on it from staff.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Hicks. Is Councillor Brunel?
Thank you, worship, through you. I just want to say again, when this all came about, and I brought up the idea of having a tourism committee for the town. In no ways was my thoughts ever to step on anybody's toes that are actually doing a great job marketing. My idea was that they can't market what they don't have, and they can't market what we don't have. So part of that committee, and I see that we're calling it a new advisory committee for now, I guess the name to be worked out later, is to be able to provide content for these marketing people to be able to market the town of Napanee. So whether it be creating the downtown a little bit more, or the waterway a little bit more, whatever, that sort of thing. And that's what I hope that when staff is working out the final details on this, that they keep that in mind, is for us to be able to create the content for them to market it. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Brunel. Is there anything else anyone would like to speak to with respect to this? Just briefly, from my point of view, I think it would be advantageous if we could, rather than having these different groups come and do presentations to us, certify, and I'm guessing they're going to all be on separate days. It may be advantageous to look at some type of a flow chart, just so we have the details of what each organization does and their responsibilities of what they're supposed to do. I do believe, in my personal opinion anyways, that there probably is a niche out there for us to form some form of a committee. We just want to make sure that when we do that, that we don't, we're not doing work that somebody else is already doing. So at least in my thinking, it might be easy if we had some type of a report prior to listening to what the other groups do, is to have their mandates kind of laid out and just see if we can establish where that niche might be. But that's just sort of my thinking, my opinion on it. So is there anything that came out of anything that I had to say, or is there anything that anyone would like to comment any further on this? Seeing none, we do have a recommendation that council receive for information the proposed new advisory committee update report. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, seconded by Councillor Martin. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Draft update to road allowance closure and sale policy. And Madam Clerk, is that one yours as well?
So through your worship, this report is in response to the earlier direction from council. We have taken the opportunity to really flesh out what we have as a policy to make sure that we are being as clear as possible early in the process when we are communicating with applicants. As noted in their staff report, there's a few specific sections that we have highlighted to draw council's attention to, but happy to take any feedback at all at this stage. This is just a draft for discussion, and looking to see if council wants to see more work done on this, if this should be referred to the Recreation Committee for comments, or any other action council wants to take with this document right now.
Thanks, Madam Clerk. Who wants to start with respect to this? Go ahead, Councillor Pennell.
Thank you, Worship, through you. Thank you, Madam Clerk, for this, this report. Just, when we look at 6.5D, and what that is that the town may agree to exchange land in lieu of payment where there is a planning or infrastructure or other benefit to the town. I'm just wondering if we could add in there somehow that maybe not with council's approval on that, but council's notification, so we know that if something's been exchanged in lieu, that would be nice if that was brought to our attention.
Through your worship, I do believe it will need council's approval anytime we do any kind of land transaction. That's not something that's been delegated to staff, so council would, if it's not clear, I will make sure it's very clear that that's a council authority to do that.
Okay, thank you. Another one is that we're talking about maybe not needing the, having a appraisal done on these lands. The problem with an appraisal when you're going to be doing on the road allowance is that when appraisal is done, it's done for the best use of that land. And how is that land going to be impacted and provide the best value? And those best values are already stipulated by the applicant that the best value is going to be to their, for that to be joining into their property. So I think that that might not be the best thing to have to do if we set our pricing already. So if we agree on how much it is per square foot or per acre or whatever the domination or that whatever it's going to be, I don't think that we need to have an appraisal unless our land sale bylaw would stipulate that we need to have that.
So through your worship, your land sale bylaw does not stipulate that. Your land sale bylaw permits that for small, irregular, and otherwise challenging to independently develop pieces of land. An appraisal is not required. Council can set a flat rate or otherwise determine what the value of that property is without requiring an appraisal.
Okay, thank you. And just one more is that when we look at the rates in the report, it states that we are sometimes 3 to 33% lower than our neighboring properties on the cost of land. And I think that if we're not going to be doing the appraisal, which I don't believe we should be doing, that we should be at least addressing these costs and maybe taking a stronger look at it.
Through your worship, that is absolutely the agreement of staff, and I would actually just say it's 35 times higher. Ours was, yeah, $2,000 per acre is our current rate, and I believe everyone else was in square foot, but it calculated out at $60,000 an acre. So we could be charging a lot more than we are for sure.
Okay, great. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Pennell. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Carver.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, so after reading through this and seeing that we are considerably lower than most others, I think if we were to raise our rates to be competitive, it may also slow down the need or wants for doing these road closures as well. So I think that should be something we should look at as well.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Carver. Is there anything else before I weigh in? Seeing none, and I'm probably going to disagree with Councillor Pennell on this one, is that I like the idea of appraisals because it gives us an opportunity to look at each one of these road allowances independently of the other one. And I'm assuming, and I'm not by any stretch of the imagination have the experience in real estate that Councillor Pennell does, but I think it's fair to say that each one of these could have different aspects and their value in even this. So just as an argument, say there's a kilometer of road allowance that wants to be closed, depending on where that kilometer of road allowance is, could be more value in one area than in another. And I think that's why I would like to look at each one independently and get each one valued independently as opposed to putting a flat rate on each one of them and say, it's so much per acre or so much per square meter, whatever it is, however we put the price on it. But I think it's kind of important to have each one looked at and appraised separately, because I'm sure that each one of them have different values depending on where they are and how they related to the pieces of property that they're associated to. But that's just my personal opinion on it. So is there anything else? Go ahead, Councilor Pennell.
Thank you, Worship. Through you, just to reply to that. The issue with road allowances is that it's a narrow piece of land and it's usually long. So when we have an appraisal on a chunk of land that say it's a square acre, having an appraisal on that for the outside benefits that are making that land more valuable, I could see. But having an appraisal on a piece of road allowance is only going to be either done by how is this going to be the best dollars for this land, which is, and what's the best use going to be? And that best use would be to be adjoining to the neighboring properties. And then they're probably going to be just going back and taking what past sales have been done. So that's where I have the issue with the appraisal on it compared to if we had the set dollar value on it.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Councilor Pennell. Councilor Shank.
I don't know, everything has to be above board, so therefore I can understand both the arguments here, but I look at it from a rural point of view, where a lot of the rural roads that'll never be developed or whatever. I agree that it should go through the Recreation Committee, but at the same token is that the fee is when an appraiser or whomever looks at it, all right, if the land is selling on either side, and if it's agricultural land, let's say it goes from $6,000 to $10,000, but let's just say, no, I'm not saying this is what it's worth, but if it's $10,000 an acre on either side, and you had an acre of an on-road illusion, that's what they would be paying, is $10,000, all right, for the municipal portion. You know, whoever wants to have it on either side. So whatever the land assessed at on either side, what the land is going for, all right, there's no way that it's just an unmaintained old plotted on a thing. And if the farmer or whoever wants to close it on either side, what is that land going for on either side? I think that's what the landowner would be willing to pay for, because that's what the land is worth. You know what I mean? Because it's going to be only an asset back to themselves. So as long as it's fair and it's done, you know what I mean? And what is the fee? I'm not sure. I don't know who can answer this. And Dave, maybe when you have an appraisal done, what is that fee? Like, what do they charge for appraisals now on properties? I don't know.
I'm not sure. I can't answer that, Mike. But I think that would that not be the responsibility of the purchaser, not the responsibility of the seller?
Through your worship, yes, it would be the responsibility of the purchaser. I think where Councillor Shank may be getting at is if the fee is higher than the value of the land, that may be putting an undue burden on the purchaser. I don't know if we know off the top of our head what we have paid for opinions of values on our properties.
Through your worship, it ranges between $3,000 and $5,000.
And of course, we're looking for some direction tonight. So I think it's been a good conversation that we can, staff, I'm sure, are paying attention, and they can come back with some options and some numbers if we really need it. So go ahead, Councillor Martin.
I just want to weigh in on what Councillor Pennell is saying, and he's right about the highest and best use. An appraiser always appraises, and it's right on the appraisal normally that it's appraised at its highest and best use, and it's going to be at the discretion of the person wanting to purchase it, what he's going to use it for. So, and the cost of an AACI appraisal is expensive these days. So I think we should set an amount, and maybe if somewhere in the wording we can have at the discretion of council, if there's some sort of special feature about this property, maybe at the discretion, we could have an appraisal done if we were unsure of what the value was, but that's just my thoughts on it.
Yep, thanks, thanks, Councillor Martin. Is there anything else? If there's nothing else, Madam Clerk, do you have the direction? I know we can go through, there's some things here that you wanted some specific direction on. Do you have enough direction to bring something back, or would you like us to talk a little bit more with respect to either 6.2, 6.3, 6.5, or 7.2?
Through your worship, I appreciate the comments that we've received from council tonight. I think I'm going to assume if nobody has said anything about 6.2, 6.3, or 7.2, that we're happy with that language. I might also suggest that we take the approach that we've taken for a few other policies and plan to bring this back on June 11th. And if anybody has any additional thoughts between now and then, feel free to stop by my office or send me an email.
Great, thanks, Madam Clerk. And I can weigh in on 6.2. I did read through it fairly extensively, and I couldn't think of anything else that should go in there. So I think the wording in that is pretty good. So 6.2, I think is for sure pretty clean. So is there anything else? Seeing none, we do have a recommendation that council receive for information the draft update to road allowance closure and sale policy, and further that council provide direction to staff with respect to the draft policy. And I believe we have done that, if I'm not mistaken, Madam Clerk. Do we have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Norrie, seconded by Councillor Martin. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Information reports from members. Do any members of council have any information reports they'd like to relate to us? Yeah, go ahead, Deputy Mayor Gower.
Yeah, I hope this is the right spot. I just wanted to talk about recreation, Parks and Recreation kickoff is June 1st. It's all the month of June. So keep an eye on the local events and take in as many as you possibly can. Thank you.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Gower. Is there any other information reports from members? Seeing none, inquiries. Do any members of council have any inquiries that we'd like to make? Go ahead, Councillor Pennell.
Thank you, through your worship. I'm just wondering if we could get a progress report on the doctors program that we have out. Still hear that there's still a lot of people that are waiting for a phone call or a letter in the mail. I'm just wondering, it's been a few months now, if there's been any good progress or any feel-good stories regarding that. And my second one would be, I just want to know when we can start to expect the KPMG report for procurement.
Mr. Zatterberg, did you wish to comment on the doctor's report? I think we're looking for an update in October, are we not?
Part of the agreement, sorry, Your Worship, part of the agreement with the health center was a September reconciliation. So yes, October for a report to council.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and the other one, I think Madam Clerk can probably comment on.
Through your worship, I received a status update this morning that there has been an unexpected delay, but we are still hoping to receive the report this month at some point.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Purnell. Is there any other inquiries that anyone would like to make of staff? Go ahead, Councillor Hicks.
Thank you. Through you, your worship. So back to my my question about the Little Forest project that the Lennox and Addington Stewardship Council is proposing for the property at Maryland Ave. Has anything gone out to the neighbors? Have we had any feedback? Do we know, did they get their funding? I didn't have a chance to ask Marilyn how they made out the last time I saw her.
Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
So through your worship, notices were mailed out to all of the residents. We did advise them that it is staff's intention to have discussion with council on May 28th. So if they have feedback, we have requested they give it to us by May 21st. So it can be incorporated into any report that's brought forward. Staff have confirmed that there's no concern with the funding from the county. We don't believe. And staff have, I will actually see if Mr. Zatterberg has any comments. I know that discussions were held with the school board as well. And we have reached out to the organizers on this to try to touch base about some of the logistics pieces. I don't have an update on that right now.
Yep, go ahead, Councillor.
And I have one more inquiry of staff, and I'm not deliberately springing this on Peter. But I'm wondering, what is the progress on the asset management plan? Because if I'm not mistaken, don't we have to have something ready for July 1st? I had a note I was going back through my note while I was in training today, and I came across this, and I'm just wondering if there's any sort of status on that.
Hi there, I could take that one. So there is a new statutory requirement that's effective July 1st of this year. We are compliant with that in our existing asset management plan. There will be a further requirement for July of 2025 that we still have some additional work to complete to get in compliance for that turnout.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Hicks. Is there any other questions that we can task staff with? Maybe they can come back with it. Councillor Hicks.
I'm just full of questions. I'm just wondering, and this I'll direct to Mr. Zatterberg, if I may, through you, your worship. Grants, grant applications, the yeses, the nos, the potential for funding, all that good stuff. Is there any way that we could get maybe a monthly status, like what we've applied for, what's come up? Like I get notification through the AMO watch file on a very limited number of grants. Like there's something out there for invasive species, and of course being a rural or mainly rural, I'll say, municipality, is this something like funding for public works and addressing and right down to that, right up to, you know, refurbishing town hall and the Trillium grant? Is there any way to get a status on that from you, from staff? I don't know if it's one person. I don't know how it works. Is it each department sort of chases their own thing and keeps their fingers crossed, and then if we don't get it, we don't hear about it? Or how is this working? Help me out.
Through your worship, that's correct. It's usually by department, and it could be very specific to their function. If council wants to have a spreadsheet of all the grants we've been successful or across the entire town, we could start working on that. I know staff are working on some grant applications right now. I'm not sure if you want to know about those ones, or if you just want to know about the successful ones. So you want, okay, we can look and see what that would look like, and come back with a report to council on.
And I'm going to make an assumption here, which I try not to do very often, but this is something that could maybe be addressed once a month with the senior leadership team. They would be the ones perhaps that would provide that information, like the infrastructure and the homes, the HEWSF that Michael applied for. So that's obviously a very big one, but you know, $5,000 towards equipment or training on how to deal with Phragmites, just as an example, everything. Because there's money out there, and I really would like to know how diligent we are being on pursuing it.
Through your worship, for us to have a central tracking system, it would have to be through the senior leadership team.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Hicks. Is there any other inquiries anyone wants to make? Counselor Shank.
We get those E11 reports sometimes or whatever. All I'm saying is that, the one with the culvert, let's get it done. The one complaint with the culvert, like if it's, when it's gone there, we found out the facts are, just clean it out, be done. You know, if you got a problem, let's do it. Let's not belinger it. It's been, I've been getting these reports all the time. I put a chain, tire on it, pull it through. Bob's your uncle, it's done. That's all, but maybe that's not the correct way. But I'd like to, not seeing this reoccur. That's all I'm saying.
Yep, thanks, Counselor Shank. I think we know what you mean. Yep, so. Yeah, is there anything else? Seeing none, we'll move on to notice of motions. Does anyone have any notice of motions they'd like to make this evening? Seeing none, new business. Is there any new business anyone would like to speak to this evening? Seeing none, announcements. Do any members of council want to make any announcements this evening? Go ahead, Councilor Nori.
Just briefly, just a follow-up to Andrew's report. Just a shout out to the gentleman working down at South Fred. It's a pleasure going down there. I hear this from my neighbors and other people, and they're always happy. They were good ambassadors for the town. And if anybody's interested, because I know they get their treats, they prefer McDonald's donuts over Timbits.
We'll make a note of that. Thank you very much, Councilor Nori. Are there any other announcements anyone else would like to make? Seeing none, the forward calendar. We'll start with the 2024 Q2 forward calendar. Is there anything on that forward calendar anyone like to ask any questions about or make any inquiries about? Seeing none, council resolution tracker. Is there anything on the council resolution tracker anyone would like to make any comments about? Seeing none, we'll look for a motion for a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of Town of Greater Napanee. Moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Deputy Mayor Cower. Ready first, second, and finally passed this 14th day of May, 2024. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. And a motion for adjournment. Moved by Deputy Mayor Cower, seconded by Councillor Hicks. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Thanks, folks. It's been a productive evening, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.